Today I want to talk to you about Proverbs, the 26th chapter, verses 4 and 5, that says this: Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. But then in verse 5 it says, Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. And of course a lot of people take this to mean, well, that's a direct contradiction. Should we answer a fool or should we not answer a fool? Is it a contradiction? No, absolutely not. Instead, these scriptures actually complement one another. When you look at it, it all depends. When you look at the latter end of each verse, it all depends on the situation, the set of circumstances. The latter end of the verse shows you the context. Notice verse 4. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. Many Christians right away jump into the defense of their faith when someone comes in and all they want to do is argue. They're not interested in Christianity. They're not interested in understanding your faith. All they want to do is just stir contention and argue. And next thing you know, both people look like absolute fools, because the Christian, many times they just ready jump into defense mode, and what you're pretty much doing is lowering yourself to the fool's level. Instead, that is a perfect situation where you don't answer the fool, or else you end up looking like him. And Jesus Christ of Nazareth did this, and we also do it. We get plenty of emails from people, and we know from the emails that all these people want to do is just start arguments and stir contention. And we get email after email after email from some of these people, and we never answer them. And they can send us 1,000,000 emails for the rest of their lives. We will not answer, because we know that these people are fools, and we're not going to answer a fool according to his folly. So we do it, and here Jesus Christ did it here in Luke the 20th chapter. Here we see with the chief priests and the scribes, they came to him because he was preaching at the temple. And he says, tell us, verse 2 of Luke 20, tell us, verse 2, by what authority do you do these things? And who is he that gave thee this authority? Jesus said, I will ask you one thing. Answer me. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or from men? See, here Jesus, he didn't get into a huge argument, because he knew these scribes and Pharisees, they weren't there to learn. They weren't there to understand. They were there to stir contention, argument. Argue back and forth, and that way they make Jesus look like a fool. And that wasn't going to happen. Instead, Jesus answered their question with a question. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or of men? And then they reasoned among themselves and said, well, if we say from heaven, he would say, then why didn't you believe him? If they say from men, well, then the people will stone us, because they believe that John was a prophet. And verse 7, it says, they answered that they couldn't tell where it came from. Verse 8, Jesus said to them, neither tell I you by what authority I do these things. Jesus didn't answer the fool, or else he'd look like a fool himself. And we do the same thing. We get these emails from people or phone calls from people, and all they want to do is stir up contention and strife. We just don't answer. A lot of times I get these people that right away, as soon as I answer the phone, right away they're already in argument mode, and all I do is just go click. I don't waste my time. I don't answer a fool according to his folly. And here Jesus, he answered a question with a question. To answer his question directly would have resulted in a verbal battle, and in an argument. Of course, an argument would have ensued, and Christ avoided strife by not answering them according to their folly, or else he would look like them, as Proverbs says. So here Jesus correctly did what Proverbs said to do, not to answer a fool according to his folly. However, then we get to verse 5. Now notice verse 5 of Proverbs 26. It says, answer a fool according to his folly. What's the context? Notice, lest he be wise in his own conceit. There's the context. There are certain times where you have to answer a fool, because if you do not, then he thinks himself wise and gets all egotistical and says, look at me, I've defeated the apostles of Christ. They didn't answer any of my questions. And then he'll go around and thinking that what he is preaching and teaching is the truth, when in reality it's actually deceit and error, as it says here in 2 Corinthians, the 11th chapter. Here the Apostle Paul had to answer many of these false apostles because they were going around preaching and teaching a false gospel. And he says these are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. Here the Apostle Paul had to answer these fools, because if he didn't, then these guys would think themselves wise, and they said, we're the wise ones, we're the ones with the truth, but in reality they were preaching a false gospel. So it all depends on the context when you should and should not answer a fool. So to say that these scriptures, they contradict one another, is just another Bible misconception.